What's up, guys? West Coast Picks here, and I had a request to show how I do counter milling on these pin chambers on a challenge lock. Get that glare out of the way, sorry guys. And I usually use a Dremel, but the bit is pretty much the same. This is a diamond tipped bit. As you can see, it's just like a ball. And the one I normally use on the Dremel is a rotary file, but it's about the same size and does the same thing. This is an engraver that was given to me by Steel Pinnings and Big Willie the Locksmith. And as you can see, that was actually my first attempt at using it. It's not that hard to use. You just try to go slow, and with practice I could probably do way better than that, but I got my initials in here no problem. And I usually use a Dremel, but this thing should do just fine. So the way I do this is I have what's called a sacrifice pin or a guide, and I will drop this in whatever chamber I want to counter mill. So let's say we're going to do the second to last chamber here. And I drop it in there, and what you want is a pin, and this is also a sacrifice pin because you're going to lose this pin, or at least some of it. You can trim it down on the Dremel or the pin lathe after. Take it down some, but the end of this pin is going to get chewed up from this process. So you can see how nice looking this pin is right now, but after we're done, it's going to actually be a little chewed up. But we're using this as a guide, and what you want is a pin that takes up most of the chamber but leaves you a little bit of room for your bit. And see how the bit is like a ball? Well, you want that ball to be all the way in the chamber but not too deep. So you want the top of the ball to be flush with the top of the chamber. As you can see, this is like the perfect fit. The top of the ball right to the top of the chamber. That means that wide part of the ball, which is where all the cutting is going to be done, is just before the top of the chamber, which is what you want. You don't want it too deep, and you don't want it right at the top, because then you're just widening the chamber out. You want it just right there. So the top of the ball flush with the shear line. And then this is a sacrifice pin, so it's going to dig in a little bit, but you use that as a guide, and you just turn this on and you just roll it around like that, all around the edges, and it will actually dig in and give you your counter milling. So let's do that right now, guys. Okay, this thing obviously doesn't have the power of a Dremel, but it is working. And yeah, it's working. I'll give it a couple more passes here. Okay, that should be good. Let's get this pin out. Sorry guys, the focus is going to be a little in and out here, but that's what happens when you're doing close-up stuff. Let me grab a napkin here because I don't want these shavings all over the place. Alright, let's get our blank to remove this pin. There we go. Now first we'll take a look at the pin and what I mean by a sacrifice pin. So if I can focus in on this, maybe. There we go. You can see the top of that pin is chewed up and probably still usable, but you're probably going to want to file it flat if you're going to be using this in whole lock. Or you could just use this as your sacrifice pin, but different pin chambers are different depths, so it won't always fit in every lock that you try to counter mill, but it does chew up the top of the pin a little bit. As for the chamber itself, we can see the counter milling line right there, and it's done a pretty good job. It's about the right level and everything. It could be a little deeper, so I might stick this back in and do it again, but as you can see, it definitely counter milled the chamber, and it's a little deceiving because let me give this a, there we go. It was a little deceiving because of the dust that was actually packed in there, but you could see it's actually quite deep all the way around, and will easily snag any sharp spool or edges that you have on your pins. So that is how I do the countermilling, guys. This one actually looks pretty good, and this tool works pretty good. It is a little slow compared to the Dremel, and it does bog down, but it's definitely usable. And that is how I do the countermilling.